All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It's time for Red Rain episode 179. Let us welcome in your triumphant host, Walter Mitchell.
Hey, Kyle, Little Rock Ledbetter. So great to be back with you. And, you know, on coming off a Cardinals victory at home over the Chiefs, 20-17. It was a fun watch. Lots to talk about with this game. We're going to break it down. We're going to have critiques. We're going to have raves and, good conversations. But before we begin, Kyle's been on quite a bit of a career journey. Kyle, tell us, at Red Rain and the audience here, what you've been up to professionally.
Yeah, it's been what is it? A great 5 months or so for me. I'm now working in local radio in Sacramento. Finally got, after many years of doing game broadcasts and covering teams and things, finally have our own show, producing, and the Alan Stiles show from 10 to 2 every day, Monday through Friday on Sacramento radio, Sacktown Sports, 11:40 a.m. And it's been fun to have our own show, and we talk a lot of basketball and football and all the good stuff around here. It's sports radio as you guys know it. I don't know exactly who the Arizona sports equivalent of that show would be, but we're in the midday slot, 10 to 2 every single day now. So it's my first full-time job in sports, as I like to call it. It's our first Monday through Friday, work 7 hours a day job in sports that I've been building up to. And a big part of that is thanks to this guy right here, Walter Mitchell, for so many years doing podcasts and coming on the Take It Easy pod with us, one of our recurring guests and bestest friends on that program. And that helped me launch a little bit of a portfolio and a resume that ultimately leads me to where I am now. So our first full-time job for about the past 8 months or so. It's been quite a journey. And these are the good times, as I like to call it. We're in the good times right now.
I'm so proud of you, and man, to see what you've come through in just a year or two's time, and then the thrill of knowing that you're covering my Oakland A's to the point of sending me this Tyler Soderstrom signed photo of a Sodi bomb. This is right on my desk in prime time, right by the lamp position for my guys in Kelly green and wedding dress white and the white spikes and the golden sunshine of
Yeah,
the
what a
A's.
strange experience to have the Oakland Athletics now going to Las Vegas, stopping in Sacramento. And yeah, it's been fun getting to cover that this year. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime experience to have essentially a Major League Baseball team volunteer to come to a minor league park and volunteer to come to Sacramento. So
Right.
that's been a fun little perk of all of this, is that we have a local baseball team now.
Yeah, and boy, what a setting! It's unusual and unique, but man, I'll tell you what, the A's are crushing the baseball. Nick Kurtz is. I mean, we missed Jacob Wilson, rookie shortstop, all star, first team. But man, we're crushing Shea Bangaliers. We can table that for when we get off the air. But no, I'm really excited that you're out there covering them, and we have a little thing going. My one of the maybe the best football and basketball and baseball player that I coached in my career wound up at the University of Connecticut playing first base. His name is Chris Bisson, and he and his dad and I were there on the Big East championship game when Chris Bisson hit a 3-run homer to win the game for UConn and got Tourney MVP. I still have scars on my hands from hitting the backstop. We were right behind home plate, and and what happened was we went to the Cape Cod League with Chris one summer. He was playing for the Bourne Braves, and we rented a little house so we could follow Chris all around the Cape and the historic Cape Cod League. And one of his teammates was Mark Kotze, who was the A's manager now. And Kotze had one of the sweetest baseball swings I have ever seen. The plane on his swing was just gorgeous. He was a Cal State Fulton and All-American, and we got to know Kotze really well. We had a few light refreshments with him across the months that we were there, but it was really fun. So we have yet to break that out to Kotze through Kyle, his connection to the Bourne Braves. So I'm waiting in eager anticipation for what Kotze's response is going to be.
Well, they're coming back this week at least, so they're playing Monday through Sunday. We'll see if I can go early enough to talk to Mark, because we get to talk to him during his post-game pressers, but if I go early enough, we can get some one-on-one time one of these days.
Great.
That's
great. So, to the Cardinals we go. Really fun game to watch last night. Lots of good stuff. I'm going to save – obviously, there's a Kyler discussion that we can have. I think he played great. I think it was the best he's ever played in a preseason game by far. I mean, he hasn't played in many. I think he put a lot more effort into it than he did last time. We'll talk about that. Of course, it's too bad that, Drew Petzing had 2 goals going in for the offense in this game. One was high motor and 2 was finish. And Kyler had the high motor. You got to give him for that. But he did not have the finish. And so, but that's why you play. That's why you want to play these games. And so we'll talk about Kyler at the end, because there's some context here, things that he said after the game that we want to talk about. And I don't want to make the beginning so much about Kyler anyway, because let's take a look at the ESPN box score. And it'd be great to start with that and just start commenting here on what we see. Kyler's 77.1 rating, which is 7 out of 8 passing, 96 yards. Look at the average, 12. That's good for us. That's a good omen of things to come. We know he wants to deepen his average score, right? And then, but Brissett was the star of the night, quarterback wise. 5 of 8, 81 yards, 10.1 on the money to Weaver twice. Xavier Weaver, who might have been the offensive MVP other than Jacoby Brissett, and perhaps even Amari DiMercato. We'll get to that. But look at this rating of 135.9. I have to say, and I have to admit that I was wrong. I watched his games in New England last year and was really discouraged. He looked like a totally different player last night, albeit, in preseason against the Chiefs' second stringers. But he looked so in command of the offense and so poised. He was getting, attacked pretty hard by that rush right from the get-go, and sidestepped it and handled it. And, and then after the game, I got to love it. He was, kind of like Geno Smith, very understated, sort of like, it was pretty easy for me. No big deal. I just took what came to us, and guys made great plays around me. And, it's really fun out there. So I was really pleased with that. And then Clayton Tune struggled with the interception. But, what I was pleased about, and of course the rating is bad, 30.6, what I was pleased about for him is he got it together well enough, got his composure back to lead the Cardinals on a game-winning drive. And that's good. I mean, Clayton Tune faces long odds to make this roster. The question is whether he'll play well enough to get claimed off of waivers. Because at this point, it just doesn't seem like, he's got much of a chance to, the way they've been paying Brissett and how natural Brissett looked last night in Drew Petzing's offense. It just looks like, it's going to be hard to give up a roster spot for Clayton Tune. And hopefully he doesn't get claimed and we can hang on to him because the kid has talent. I mean, he's got the size, he's got the feet, he's got the arm, and he overcooked one last night, unfortunately. Under duress, there was a guy in his face, but still, you don't want to do that, obviously. And but what I like about it is he tries to pass over the middle, something that we've got to do better at in Arizona, and I think that he's got the capabilities of doing that. So then when we go to the rushing, Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight. Wow, the combination of quickness and speed on him was really attractive. I hope that they give him, some reps with this, at least, maybe even a first team rep. Throw him in there and see what happens, because I think the race for running back 4 is going to be pretty tight between Bam Knight. I think you have to count him in there based on this performance. Michael Carter, who had a tough time getting loose, but fought really hard, I thought, and I've always liked him. I thought it was a telling thing last year when James Conner and Trey Benson were out, that the coaches turned to Carter, not DJ Dallas, to start at running back, and Carter delivered like to the tune of 180 yards combined in a couple games. So out of running the ball and out of the backfield. So Carter did a good job, I thought, keeping his head up. He was getting met in the backfield. The second team line was not getting the push the first team line did, and so, but interesting to see how he bounces back next week. And then DJ Dallas had a rough night in returns, 2 fumbles, and the second one was on a Matt Ariza, just out and out 67-yard bomb where he was backpedaling the whole time. That's a difficult play to make, kind of. I'm not sure DJ Dallas is a punt returner anyway, but that's going to be an interesting thing. I think there's a scenario too where you might only keep 3 running backs initially, because I don't think any of these guys are going to get claimed. And you can have them on the practice squad and bring them up when you need them, at least initially, to see how it goes. So, I mean, when you try a 53-man roster, which I'm going to do this week, I'm going to do each one after each game. It's tough. I mean, there's so many good players. And I'll just ask you this, is that, for us to ponder as we continue in the offense, I'm going to turn to Kyle after I finish the offensive guys. But could the Cardinals this year actually be deeper than the Kansas City Chiefs? I think it's a legit question. And I think once, I think there's at a certain point after the Minshew easy walk-in, break contain, touchdown, Cardinals came back very strongly with what they had in their second and third stringers, and basically dominated the game on both sides of the ball after that. So, and it speaks well to Monty Oxenfort, in my opinion, what he's done to build the depth and talent on this football team. And the 53 is going to be a tough set of decisions for Monty and the coaches. So, and James Conner ran hard and well for 3 plays. I thought he looked really good. I'd like to see the Cardinals go into a tush push with James Conner under center and get a couple, big boys like Travis Vokalek behind him to push him. That could have come in handy in this game when my voice is hoarse because I was screaming out of my mind why we didn't go for it on 4th and inches. That decision, this is the thing about Jonathan Gannon that really strikes me as suspect, is these decisions, like it's a preseason game. I mean, and it's 4th and inches, and you're going to kick, and you're behind. The Chiefs has already, scored a touchdown, and you're behind, and you don't go. You go for a field goal in a preseason game. I mean, write in the comments for me. I think others of you might have felt the same way. I'm still hoarse from screaming. I'm not used to screaming since last season, so
getting back to the swing of things.
Such a head scratcher and a disappointment to me, particularly when if Drew Petzing's saying, high motor and finish, you have a chance to finish on a drive, which cost you the Vikings game because you kicked a field goal there. So yeah, those kind of decisions really irk me. But we came back and won this game, so next time around, hopefully we go for it. And we need a tush pusher. Toon got one late in the game to seal the win. And he got a good push from behind because the initial surge wasn't that great. But I think that James Conner is made to order for it. Just snap it to him and get a couple guys behind him, like Chip Bryman and Travis Vokalek, who, by the way, I thought was really good last night. And he's an up-and-comer. I'm in favor of keeping 4 tight ends because Vokalek is so good. He's a blocker. If you've seen his one-on-one reps in camp, he's been outstanding, taking on, Sweaty and all the big guys. And, he's an asset. And I think he would get claimed by some team. The Patriots would claim him, I think, in a nanosecond. So this time around, he's putting good stuff on tape. So, but, as the receivers go, Xavier Weaver was the star player at the right spot at the right time. And I think you have to consider him for the wide receiver 3 spot because of his speed. I think he gives you more than Zay Jones. Zay Jones is savvy, but he's not as hard to cover. And of course, Dortch, I love out of the slot. Love the little flip screen, they are sweep they had for him. Dortch had the fumble on the opening kickoff. He's not really been fumble prone in his career that much, so I'm not that worried about it. He bounced back with an 8-yard punt return, and he had a nifty run on the sweep. So, I think he's in the mix there. And I think for wide receiver 5, we still haven't seen Simi Fehiko. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. And in practice, who's really come on is Tajuan Palmer. Tajuan Palmer, the draft pick from a year ago. He's had quite a chemistry going with there we go, with Brissett. And we may see that come out and manifest itself against the Broncos next week, who, by the way, beat the 49ers 30-9. This will be a test of depth because Sean Payton has really built this thing up quickly in Denver, and be interested to see how we handle them. But that's next week, so let's finish this out. Vokalek had the nice couple receptions. McBride, just anyone throw a better ball to McBride on that corner route. I don't know. Kyler just puts it on a dime. That's maybe his best throw, particularly to his left. That's a sticky throw that he makes all the time, and I don't want to take it for granted because it's so good. And McBride looked great on that. And Marvin with a great catch over the middle and a great throw, synced up really nice by Kyler. We need more of that. Beating teams in the middle is going to be huge for the Cardinals. And Marvin Harrison did his part there on a 15-yard game for a first down. So all in all, and then Michael Wilson started the action with a 12-yarder, which I thought was really good. This guy, Michael Wilson, I think is special. And it wouldn't surprise me if he emerges as a real go-to guy in this offense. Certainly part of a major, trifecta of Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Wilson. Wilson's just a very difficult cover, and he's playing faster now and freer. He had a little setback with going in concussion protocol, which I think he passed, but yeah, I really love this kid, and I love his attitude, and I think he's going to be good. Elijah Higgins, we really like too as a receiver. He's a lock. So then, overall, let's go to the team stats. Look at this. 24-17 first downs. Passing first downs, 13-9. Rushing first downs, 7-6. First down from penalties, 4-2. Third down efficiency, 4 of 9 to 5 of 13. Fourth down efficiency, we didn't have to go. They did, 1 for 1. Total plays, 62. They got us by 1. But then total yards, over 100, 106 yards more. And same amount of drives, 5.8 yards per play for 4.0. You're talking about a Matt Nagy and Andy Reid offense, 215 to 157 in passing. Much higher percentage completion, 8.3 per pass to 3.8. And boy, did we cover better in our secondary. And, we're going to talk about that when we get to the defensive side of the ball. Sacks tied, rushing 140 to 92, 4.0 to 4.4. Well, I like the 4.0 for us because we rushed 35 times. And then penalties 5 to 11. The disparity there. Red zone made attempts. This was the problem. 1 for 3 versus 2 for 2 for the Chiefs. They capitalized. We did not. And not going for it on 4th and inches in the red zone. Yeah, that is his decision that I hope that Jonathan Gannon will correct in the future. Turnovers, they won the battle, but we had 2 huge ones. We'll talk about that. And then, so time of possession, we won the time of possession. All in all, if you gave me those stats before the game or you looked at those stats, I would have said, wow, I'll take it. Kyle, what's your thought about the Cardinals offense last night?
Well, it is a preseason game, obviously, but I do love, to the Kyler Murray point, yes, the interception is going to be the thing people point to, but like you said, consistency out the gate. Obviously, they fumbled right off the bat, so it was like Kansas City just went right out, scored, and then their starters were done, so it would have been nicer to have seen more of the starters there, but either way, offense played well for the Cardinals. Like you mentioned, the wide receiver battle, I think, is more interesting because you asked earlier, does the Cardinals have a certain level of depth compared to Kansas City, obviously the 5-time AFC champions of the last
Right.
6 years. And at the receiver and tight end position, it's not much of a question that the Cardinals definitely have more depth. Now, obviously, Kansas City has chosen not to prioritize that as much over the years, but between you mentioned Monty Ossenfort drafting, between the Trey Benson at the running back position pick last year, still having DeMercado, who is obviously an undrafted developmental project for them. You can go on down to the receivers with Wilson and Weaver, and obviously still having Greg Dortch. It's certainly a deeper room. I know we'll have debates about the 53-man roster later and whether to keep 5 receivers and 4 tight ends, or 6 receivers and 3 tight ends and everything like that. But certainly the Cardinals are going to have 9 very solid skill position players, along with those running backs, which again, the engine is James Conner, obviously, but they've got a bunch of other guys back there. So all in all, I think the depth is really showing, not just in how many names you see on this box score who recorded some sort of statistic last night, but they're names that are familiar. They're names that we've seen play NFL football, and they're names that we feel pretty confident will be able to contribute at some point during the season. And obviously they can only keep, like we said, nine pass catchers, or, receivers, tight ends, and a few running backs. But there's all of these names are familiar names. There's a reason why the Cardinals had a top 8 offense last season.
Yeah. And, I really like Drew Petzing. I love the goals that he sets. And, this offense looked really good last night at times. And particularly when Brissett took over too, kept moving the football and the getting after teams physically. I thought the offensive line, dominated the Chiefs front pretty well last night. I think that they handled it extremely well. This morning, I posted an article on my new Red Rain blog site from blogspot.com, who the most brilliant Cardinals were at each position. And for offense and quarterback, I had Brissett. At running back, I had DeMercado, describing his, screen pass touchdown to the house as a Rembrandt. I mean, a work of art. Absolutely fantastic. This guy has something special about him. It's just the nose he has for the end zone. It was reminiscent to me of that little screen pass he took against the Bears right before halftime last year, all the way to the house from midfield. Once he gets out in the open field, he's got tremendous vision and elusiveness. And then he's got the power to lower his shoulder on you if he has to. But yeah, here's what I had. Thank you. Excellent, Kyle. Then for tight end, I had, I wanted to give it to McBride, but Vokalek, I think, deserves a nod because, as I just said, the dude is a premier blocker and underrated receiver. And I think he's very worthy of a roster spot, especially when you're paying as much 12 and 13 personnel. 13 means you have 3 tight ends on the field. To have another one in the bullpen, if someone's linked up, I think it's a great idea. Wide receivers, Weaver. I think he should be the wide receiver 3. He brings a speed element that I think is important, and a shiftiness, and is a deep threat. We've been saying that in the offseason is something we kind of need. I kind of like it out of this kid. And then at tackle, I was so impressed with Christian Jones in the second unit at left tackle. Remember last year at this time, he gave up like 4 sacks trying to convert to a swing tackle and play left tackle. Boy, what a difference in a year he's made in that regard, because he's a natural right tackle. We know that. The question is, could he flip over and play left tackle if you need him to? And I think he took a major step forward last night. He looks in great shape, too. Guard I gave to Isaiah Adams. Watching him, high effort blocks on first, second, and third levels. We could see why the coaches are raving about him so far in camp. And then Fro, he's a tone setter for Petsing's offense. He's the perfect guy to have in the middle of it for so many reasons. And so that was it. I mean, and if you look at these guys, Monty brought in Brissett as a free agent. That already is looking like a great move. Amari DiMercato was a college free agent. Travis Vokalek was a waiver claim. Xavier Weaver was a college free agent. Christian Jones was a 6th-round draft pick. Isaiah Adams was a 3rd-round draft pick. And Paul J. Froholt was maybe from the get-go Monty's best free agent signing of the batch. So kudos to Monty. He's got something going here. And if the coaching is good with this talent, we got something pretty special going. So now we'll turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball. Let's stay here since we're here. I thought the best pass rusher of the night, interior, was Dante Stills by far against the Chiefs' first team, no less. Picking right up on his prolific pass rushing prowess. Wow, man, he looks really good. And drew raves, deservable raves from the coaches after the game. Jordan Birch, whoa. I mean, I don't think we have anyone on the roster who's quite like him in the terms of his size and strength. And the burst, the short and long-term bursts he has, and the agility. It's just so maneuverability, how it can maneuver and turn. And I had a little trouble bringing down the quarterbacks. In both sacks, he got a call back for illegal contact penalties. But man, this is a guy who looks very special. And I think he's a guy too that if you ever wanted to play 4-man lines, you put him in a defensive end opposite Darius Robinson or even Calais. Then you have an interior of, Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolan. We're going to get him back. You can have Calais inside. You can have, Dante Stills inside. So, yeah, I mean, there was wow, I think he was one of the more breathtaking players to watch. Then Cody Simon, I just have such great vibes about him. He was the only inside linebacker who flashed in run support last night. He has 3 tackles, stepped up, made some plays I thought he was close in coverage too, which really encouraged me. And I think this is the area of the team they really need to sort out quickly. Owen Popo, unfortunately, was really not reliable last night. He got beat a number of times, and that would surprise me. We can see why the coaches are frustrated with his consistency. Mac Wilson really didn't do much. He's a concern for me because I don't think he's fast enough or instinctive enough in coverage to be a factor. I think he'll be a repeat of Kaiser, which was good sometimes versus the run, but not almost ever versus the pass. And although both guys, you got to love their leadership and their attitude and their baller mentality, but I just don't see the fit of Mac Wilson. I'd much rather go with Zaven Collins if they're going to move him, if they're going to play someone like that in there because of his length and his physicality. So, and then Darren Hall, he's been a preseason star for 2 years now. There's a reason for it. I mean, I went back and at Kyle's urging, because he's a San Diego State fan. He's an Aztec through and through. We'll get the hat on him at one of these days, the San Diego State hat. But Darren Hall, if you go back and watch his tape at San Diego State, oh my God, this guy has instincts. He's physical. Yeah, baby. Go Aztecs. There we go. Looking great. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we got it in the closet here.
Oh.
It was right next to me. So,
Where I
but
come
back to
from, we call that a keeper.
yeah.
I
All
keep
right.
that one on, man.
Let's
So,
talk about San Diego State's Darren Hall.
and my favorite Cardinals coach ever coached there. His name was
Don
Don
Coryell.
Coryell. So I have a special place in my heart for San Diego State. And but Darren Hall was an absolute stud there, and I think he's just been so underrated his entire career. I think you know what he did last night, gang? This is exactly what I said. Played the Garrett Williams hybrid cornerback safety role to press. That's a play that Garrett Williams makes. Is because what you're taught in zone is if you don't have a man to play underneath if you're on the second level, you backpedal as far as the third level to be in a help position, which he did perfectly. And look at the vertical and the high pointing of the football was awesome on that play. I think he's a keeper. Talk about your hat. I think Darren Hall is a keeper, and for a number of reasons. The coaches love to play zones. He's really good at it. And he's good in man, too. You should have seen him during the week. He made a couple great pass breakups in practice. But he's too good. And this is on tape now. I would think that if he gets cut, he'll get claimed by someone. Because people are going to be looking at the Cardinals defensive back depth, hoping that some of those draft picks get picked, or one at least, and perhaps even Darren Hall. So, and then Dadrion Taylor Demerson and Jamie Robinson were the hardest hitting tacklers on the field. Buddha, too, had 4 nice tackles. And they just came in and just kept the Buddha tone going. These are, Demerson, I think you don't ever take off the football field. The kid is too dynamic. He's the best free safety on the roster, third level safety who can, if you want underneath guys jumping routes, you need a dependable guy behind him with range and speed and toughness. This kid has it all, and hopefully the coaches see that too. So let's go to the defensive tackles back on ESPN. Because it's interesting to look at this. Jamie Robinson. God, I love the way he was getting the football yesterday. And talk about finishing. Kid's a finisher. This is another under-the-radar pickup that Monty made. That when I saw this, I was like, wow, they got Jamie Robinson? Because I loved him at Florida State. Loved him. And, Denzel Burke was all over the field last night making plays. He's really making great effort and showing strides. Look, Buddha plays, 2 series and he's right up there. I mean, he's just such the heartbeat and pulse. Joey Blunt played hard and well. Was little out of it in coverage at times, but then would recover. Keaton Clark did his job tackling, was probably the weakest in coverage of the corners last night. That surprised me. I expect him to be tighter than that in coverage, and I think we need a big bounce back game from him at Denver. And we'll probably get it. The kid's got a lot of heart. But he's definitely on the bubble, and he probably knows that. So Cody Simon led all the inside linebackers with tackles. I like this guy, Ikao Boyedo. Watching him practice, he's looked pretty sticky to me. Plus, he's wearing Aeneas's number 35, which always jumps out at me. But that's this guy we want to keep around on the practice squad. He's got some talent. Of course, Rabbit's my, I would run with Rabbit all day long. Jalen Jones, couple of tackles, that was good. LJ Collier with a sack, the one sack on the night. Or was that the only sack we had? Did we have another sack? I think it was the only one. Because the other two were pulled back. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. We have, one sack from LJ and 4 tackles for loss.
Yeah. So good to see LJ Collier show up in the second half. He's well liked and he's played well for us in spots. I mean, now have kicked him all the way inside. He was playing defensive end, and now he's like all the way inside, and he's working hard. So he's on the bubble, but he's making plays. Michael Walker, I thought, made a couple nice plays. Xavier Collins made another nice play, one in coverage that I saw that was good. This kid, Kion Bars, I thought flashed really well. They just picked him up from the XFL. He's a USC kid, I think, and former Arizona. This kid's got game, and he looks in good football shape. So coming off that XFL season, Akeem was active. Looking forward to seeing more from him. He's in the mix here to start at weak inside linebacker. Goodlow, I thought, counted himself well. Jalen Thompson, I didn't see much of him, but he, had a nice tackle there. Elijah Jones, I thought, acquitted himself well in coverage. He was dogging it. Made one really nice tackle and then missed one on the elusive run that they had on that long little screen for 20 yards. The guy made a good inside-outside cut on him, so I can't blame him completely on that. But I thought Jones handled himself well. Xavier Thomas got caught inside too often, and gave up contain. He's got to set a harder edge, but good effort, and he had a really good week in practice rushing the passer. He's an impact pressure guy, so. And even the announcers, Calvisi, and I thought Acho did a great job in color. Are saying this is a guy that could be targeted by teams if he gets waivers because of his explosiveness off the edge. But I think as long as BJ Ojulari's on the pup list, I think you got to keep Thomas. And I hope they keep him long term anyway, because there's just so much ability and explosiveness there. So I'd like to see them hold on to him regardless. Stills had a big night. Gilmore has some quickness to him that I like. I've seen him practice. Patrick Jenkins, the Tulane kid, really interesting. He might be a guy to keep around and develop. Coach Debo has got his hands on. I thought he really flashed on several occasions. You don't hold on and win this game without getting some good play up front. And these guys delivered. They were solid. And Max had the great tackle for loss. He got beat on the touchdown on what I thought was a spectacular back shoulder throw and stretch catch. Max played it about as well as you can. So I don't blame him on that one. That was just a sensational Mahomes back throw, the shoulder. That if they ran it again against him, I bet he inside leverage that a little bit more than he did. But he gave good effort there. He looks fluid and good to me. Vi Jones, I have to tell you, remember the deep pass they had late that made me nervous. Vi Jones Talk about running the Tampa 2 backpedal. Go back and watch that play. Vi Jones from the linebacker position plays underneath that route. It was awesome. This kid has speed. I want to see more of him. I think there's a player here in Vi Jones. I really do. Birch, amazing that's only his stat line when it should have been so much more because of the penalties. He doesn't get the 2 sacks. Garrett Williams, here's the thing about Garrett Williams, gang, is I don't think you can call him a slot corner. It's not what he really is. What he is a like hybrid cover safety who at times they play in zones up and in times they play in zones back. And he's working hard on his one-on-one man coverages because that's an area that he needs to improve. So he's not a traditional slot. You're going to put down the slot and play the best slot receivers man to man. And then, of course, Darren Hall, who had the great pick of the night and some pass breakups. And then Keaton Crawford. The coaches must be so happy. I mean, they stressed getting turnovers and getting their hands on the football. Keaton Crawford, look at the way the vertical he showed in the end zone and the high pointing the way Darren Hall exhibited. That was a huge play in this game. And, the Chiefs were taking their shots. Zappe was throwing it down there. Crawford played it perfectly. Jumped the route and then high pointed it and came down with the ball with great hands. So, and he looks like a 7th round steal. Darius I saw him. He looked elusive, slippery, but didn't get home on anything. What's the one there? What did he get it? What's that one for Darius? What column is that?
That would be QB hits.
Yeah, I remember he slipped this guy, and yep, got to Minshew. Yeah, looking for more from Darius, obviously, especially based on how good he's looked in practices. So, and this next week it'll be interesting to see what they do, how they approach it. Were the starters just a one game thing? I think with a guy like Darius, I think he needs some reps. And I think it would be good to get all our guys in the rotation a few more reps to get them in good football shape. And then, we just don't know. I mean, Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, or are they just, out again for another year? Or, what's going on with them? I know Bilal has the neck. He's been on the PUP. And Jones has a knee ailment. So, but I think, the last guy I want to talk about is Elijah Simmons. He brings such an impact at the line of scrimmage that it's hard to ignore. He's unique in that he brings some more of it than you typically have in the others. And you need that in goal line situations, especially now you have this tush push phenomenon. You need rugged, big 330 pounders clogging up the middle of those things and put them in the A gaps. I mean, he's made to order for that. I think he's an instant contributor on game days situationally. So I would make a case that he belongs on the 53. I'd be surprised if he doesn't make the cut. So, Kyle, how would you sum up the defensive effort now? Once they got down 14-3, after that, rest of the game, they held them to 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, again, take what you can from a preseason game. I stopped reading a ton into these things years ago, but I did think it was funny that they ran one play with Mahomes in the first team offense, and then they said, we're good. One play, touchdown. No one has to play anymore. But I thought they did a pretty good job containing Minshew. I mean, it certainly wasn't perfect, and we know they broke contain on that one touchdown, but
Yeah.
I do think they did a relatively good job. You outlined the safety position, and for so many years we've come on here and talked about cornerbacks aren't performing. They're playing safeties out of position, and I feel better about where they're at right now. Obviously, we didn't see much Jalen Thompson or Budda Baker, so again, it's going to be the same conversation as last year with that trio of Budda and the Rabbit and Jalen Thompson and how that's all going to piece together. But I feel better about the secondary than I did going into last season, which is a sign of improvement. I feel like you outlined kind of the issues with the linebacker position. I feel like you just need one guy to really step up and show you that they can lock down a position. Because, like you said, it's Mac Wilson, kind of a tweener right now. They obviously added Akeem, was it Davis Gaither, and that should, in an ideal world, lock down one of the positions. Popo was kind of in and out last year, and the defense wasn't very good, so you understand all the position groups being up for grabs. But I don't. I think it's a good sign that I feel more concerned about the linebackers than the secondary, because in the past it would always be the Cardinals just have an awful secondary and the corners aren't going to be able to cover. And this year you feel really good about the quarter. And we didn't even get to Will Johnson all that much too, which, has been the darling of camp so far. So I'd say I feel most concerned about how this linebacker position is going to kind of all piece together, specifically
Right.
the middle linebacker and the weak side. But other than that, I feel pretty good right now, and there's nothing that I really saw yesterday that made me, pause for concern in either direction.
Yeah. Will Johnson kind of had a night like Kyler. He was great, except for one play on the holding call at the goal line early on. That's a rookie mistake. Yeah, that's not even a rookie mistake. Corners around the league are going to try to get away with that all the time,
Yeah, it just happens.
It just happens. But he did bounce back and defended the fade pass, and gave a little earful to the Chiefs receiver after the ball went flying over his head. So and I'm really encouraged by him. He hit his ball in practice. Didn't get in on any tackles last night to speak of. So, but that's a part of his game I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because we're going to need it from him. We need him to be complete. If you don't tackle in this defense, it's going to be hard to justify playing you. You can't be another Pat P. Because as a group, we need to tackle better. And that was, again, an issue last night. Now, the thing about our offense is those dudes block. They're taught to block. They're efficient at it. They're fundamental at it. That's one thing these Monty Ossenfort Cardinals do, is they block. Now, can we say the Cardinals under Monty tackle? We can't say that yet. And, so you got the blocking on one side, you got tackling on the other. And aside from Budda, who makes them his majority when he's on the field, we need guys this year. We need gang tacklers. We need guys who can finish. Again, I would stress this, on the defensive side, high motor, finish. I think it's a great, mantra for the Cardinals all season. High motor, finish. So, at times we finished off really well with interceptions. And at times we got tackles for loss, which was great. But in the open field, we miss too many tackles, and we need ballers. And that's why, when I look at two guys like Dadrian Taylor-Demerson and Jamie Robinson, who are doing their parts, that captures my attention. Those are guys I want on my team. And we need it to be infectious at every position. I'm worried about the inside linebackers and the tackling, but I'm also worried about them in coverage. So, because
I also think the big one too with the corner position too, because Garrett Williams, boundary corner. Sometimes you're better when you're not tackling. It's weird how the cornerback evaluation thing works, but Max Melton, I think, is a really interesting part of that conversation too, just because he's going to be kind of bounce between different places on the field this year. So you might see, he had the tackle for loss yesterday, and again, it's a preseason game, not a huge sample size, but he could be a big part of that equation too.
Yeah, and I think that it gives it even more credence in a preseason game that you're going to give it, you're going to make that kind of effort and execute it at a high level, because that's where you ingrain good habits. And so I kudos to Max, and Elijah Jones had one too, which is really, really good. So we need that from our corners. We need them to force a run and come up and break up screens, because that's been a bugaboo of ours for years. And again, I see this in practice all week when I'm watching the feeds from practice, the highlights. We're not covering tight ends in practice, and we didn't cover that tight end in this game. That's a concern for me. We've got to figure something out there as well. We can't just and then running backs. We've got to have speedy linebackers to cover them out of the backfield, which particularly in the NFC West, where
you need to figure out something other than just Buddha guarding tight ends. That's the other thing.
Correct. Exactly. So those are issues that we'll see if the coaches can address. If coaches can't get the team to tackle, it's going to be hard to win in this division for sure. So hope that's the emphasis more than let's pick off the ball, because it really begins with tackling to get teams in the position of having to convert and to stop teams from getting better, easier conversion down in distances. We got to step up into holes and make plays and make it difficult. So, going to be looking for that up in Denver. And so, just to finish with Kyler, the last time he played in a preseason game was 2021. And he looked like he wanted absolutely no part of playing in that game. In fact, if anyone ever remembers, it was against the Chiefs at home, and Mahomes, who played on the other side. And Kyler was basically throwing the ball into the turf. It was hot potato. His stats, I think I wrote them down here, he was 1 for 4 for 2 yards for an 0.5 average and a QBR of 49.4. And that was helped by 2 runs that he had for 8 yards, or he had 1 yard for 1 run for 8 yards. 2 sacks. Oh, his rating was actually 39.8. Now, 2000. So, but look what happened in 2021. He was playing his best ball for 7 games before, AJ Green happened, and Kyler and audibles happened, and the friction between Kyler and Cliff happened, and everything changed since then. And it's been quite a journey through the contract and trying to get Kyler back on track to where he was in 2021. But here's the thing, okay? Much rather trade that in. Now it's 2025. He comes out of this game 8 for 9, Okay. And for 96 yards, nearly 100. Who knows if we go for it on 4th and inches and get it and have a tush push ready and with Connor or something, and we get it. It could have been over 100. 12.0 average, 2 runs for 9 yards. Like I said, he brought the high motor. Those bootlegs were fantastic. And then a 77.1 rating despite the bad interception. And it's weird what he said about the bad interception was that he was moving at such a high speed for the first time ever on a bootleg to his left, but he just wound up underthrowing it, not getting enough juice on the ball. All right, but here's a key thing: is that if anyone saw the interview with Gambo and Burns earlier in the week, which there were things about it I thought Kyler handled well, things about it that I think he's kind of in denial about, like the deep passing. Interesting that he invoked it. Oh, go back to 2021. Look at my deep passing then. And at this time last year, he was throwing Cliff under the bus. Saying that, agreeing with fans that Cliff was, that Kyler had ideas about the offense that Cliff never had, and how Petzing is a genius, and so, for him to say that, it's sort of like talking out of both sides of your mouth. So he referred back to when he was an actual Pro Bowler and throwing the ball downfield as references to him not being accurate, as a rebuttal to not being accurate on downfield throws. Interesting, in the game last night, they didn't really have any significant downfield throws, except if you want to call the corner pass to Trey McBride. It's not really a deep shot, but it's an intermediate in between the two levels. And that was a great pass. And Kyler prides himself on his arm and his accuracy. The problem is when he gets for longer shots is that, unlike other quarterbacks, he doesn't ever seem to step up into his throws. And he tends to wait too long and then doesn't get enough on them, or he throws them too early and they go wide or long. But he says it's egregious to say he's got issues with deep passing. We've seen it. It hasn't shown up really since, his demise in the second half of 2021. It hasn't been there. Not in ways. Now in 2021, he averaged 270 a game passing. Here in this offense last year, he averaged 226. Big difference, almost 50 yards. So, and then he said it's the deep passing is, a function of the system. And in other words, the system doesn't give me a better chance. And I thought that was kind of moot too, because when you have a great running game, you have all kinds of opportunities to exploit defenses off play action and exploit them deep. Because you got safeties crawling up, you got linebackers crawling up, leaving a gaping middle. You got all sorts of opportunities, and it's about seizing it. But then at the end of the the argument too, that the question that Gambo had was, are you making players around you better? And Kyler said, yeah, I want to win. So of course I'm doing it. But that wasn't really answering the question, and it was kind of vague. And then, the third question was the late season swoons. What's up with that? And his answer to that was, it's not just me. We all have to play better as a team. And, so yes, We all have to play better, but who is the tone setter for a football team? It's always going to be a quarterback. You win because your quarterbacks give you this vibe that you're going to win and play with the kind of intensity and success that breeds confidence. And that's how you make everybody around you better anyway. So, that was kind of disappointing to hear him treated just like that. Would have liked to see more of a mea culpa out of him and saying, like, you know what, I know this year I've got to show I can play stronger down the stretch and not turn the ball over. And then, at the end of the interview, Gambo and Burns asked him, what do you feel about the starters playing in the game? And he was like, my favorite was during COVID where you didn't even have preseason games, and I could just, and then he said, I think it's just best to just on the game one of the regular season roll the ball out and play. And I was just like, the whole point of playing the starters isn't that to make everyone better around you in the preseason game, is to make that sacrifice. So the two didn't jive for me. So someone must have got to Kyler after that interview, because his attitude definitely changed about that. And I see this as a really positive. Some things Kyler's still 7 years in kind of figuring out, because he said after the game he had a blast out there. He saw the value of it. And he said he was glad he made that mistake on a rollout to the left, because now next time he does it, he's got a different plan. He said all the right things about, and then saying about the team, how they drove the ball twice, and they were able to generate good yards. And, unfortunately, there was the interception, but then we got a scoring drive out of the next one. And, guys were playing well. And he's clearly, and you could tell it was sincere, he saw the value, not just for himself, but for the team, and being out there and competing and getting prepared. Because he even said we can't do certain things in New Orleans like we did. So we learned about that. That's a breakthrough. And, he obviously, if you look at it in the stats, he brought a lot more to the table. And so I'm going to give him a mulligan on that interception. He's been throwing too many interceptions in practice, though, coming off a tough stretch at the end of the last season, turning the ball over. But this is good now. Let's get it over with. Let's deal with it and get it over with now. And correct it in practice. That's what practice is for. And make sure you focus on making that a goal, and to getting this team, get everyone around you playing good football. Kyle, what's your thought on Kyler Murray and where he is mentally right now?
Well, I don't know exactly how all of this is going to play out, but certainly the most important year since 2021 for Kyler Murray. So I guess, referencing back to kind of how they handled 2021, where things did go right, didn't go right. Some of the fading late conversation stuff is still there, which, last year was, he made it through the whole season, but last year was kind of a, the team wasn't really still in it the last couple weeks of the season kind of situation. But
Right.
This is, I guess, exciting in a sense that you're going to get the opportunity to kind of show growth and show that you've learned from some of the situations in 2021. Because, I mean, he's been hearing it for years now, whether it's from media members or interviews like you were talking about, or just general fodder. I mean, he's been hearing the stuff about, the fading late, the disappointment, the work ethic stuff, the leadership, all that. So, and has made a lot of strides based on what we've been talking about over the years. And, now he's the old guy on the team, and most of these people are now Monty Austin Fort draft picks or free agent signings. So now's kind of the opportunity to show growth from 2021. And I only say that because this is the year where there are actual expectations, and there is a possibility that they're going to be. I mean, they were in a playoff race last year, but I'm saying the expectation is that they will be there, and that there is a preparation that goes into that for when you get to that point.
Right. Yeah. And I think this was a major potential turning point for Kyler, is realizing it, now that he's done it, he feels good about it. And it was good for him, good for the team. And it outlines, too, what the team needs to do better first and what he needs to do better. So kudos to Jonathan Gannon, who was taking a different approach this year. I wish now that he, takes a different approach on 4th down and inches. And like I said, has a tush-push package with James Conner or someone equivalent like Trey McBride or something, with two great tight ends behind him pushing that can't be stopped. So we don't have to worry so much in short yardage anymore, because that's at their disposal immediately. But Gannon, he's going harder in practice. He hasn't given as many days off as he has in the past. He now held the players responsible for playing in the first preseason game. And a quarterback who initially was reluctant, and even said so on Burns and Gambo. But he came out of it realizing, oh yeah, like a light bulb went off. This was good, and I proved a lot to myself. But not only that, I proved a lot to my coaches and my teammates. So if that's the real takeaway here, and that can propel him into this season and the team into this season, that could have been, the real boon and blessing of this whole decision to play the guys last night. Think of how anticlimactic it would have looked with Mahomes playing and their starters, and we would have trotted out our second team like we did, like we've done in the past. The Chiefs play their starters for a reason, and it's worked out for them. I think that it might be good to follow in their lead. But yeah, I'm hopeful that this time around, we're going to get a different version of offense, and I think we've got the bell cows to do it. But we really got to get this thing synced, and we got to get Kyler to come out of the gate strong as a leader and as in his performance at quarterback, and cut down the turnovers and do the things that make him electric. And hopefully, too, the inclusion of motion, which we saw a bit last night, is going to help this offense. And I'm sure we haven't seen the first of what they want to do off of that. But so, hey, listen, I want to thank all the people who've been jumping on the new Red Rain blog. We're like in our 3rd week, and I was just counting this up today. I'm just so delighted and proud to announce we have this morning we went over 3,000 views in just 2.5 weeks. So of articles combined, and I'm really impressed with that and encouraged by that and motivated by that. I just wanted to get out on my own and be my own boss. And, I'm not trying to make money out of this, or, just want to be a fan, and I want to share fan experiences with you. So what matters the most to me, and we've had over 125 comments in the articles too on this blog format, which is pretty comment friendly. So want to hear from you guys. Jump right in. Tell us what you're thinking. React, please, to what the issues are, where you stand. I love the conversations. I've had so many good Cardinal fans to talk with and get to know and appreciate. This is an ongoing chapter of trying to bring Cardinal fans together in a common cause. And, we have a forum in which we can be critical but supportive. And I think that's the way you do things. Tom Brady just had a statue made and is now at Gillette in bronze. And in his speech, he talked about how important the fans were to staying on top of the team, not only supporting them through the tickets and sitting through freezing temperatures at full capacity, but by holding the players and the coaches to high standards, ones that they set for us and that we aspire to. And I have to tell you this, Brady got his fair share of criticism in New England throughout his career whenever things just didn't seem right to the fans. And they kept holding him to the bar. And he saw where the bar was and he kept aspiring. This is the power that fans have on organizations. We're the ones that buy the merch. We're the ones that buy the tickets. We're the ones that scream. We're the ones that are down in the dumps when we lose. We're the ones that are high in the clouds when we win. We're the ones that drive this product. And we as fans, if we can, keep the bar high on our coaches, our players, our owners, our front office, our general manager, that's the best thing we can do. And, credit to guys that I've really grown fond of, Dan Bickley, John Gambadoro, Vince Marotta, Dave Burns. These guys are bringing it. It's hard for them to do given the history of Arizona media. But Gambo's a New Yorker. Bix from Chicago. These guys grew up in big media areas where the fans have a voice through the writers. And that's what I want to be here. I want to have my own voice, but I want to hear your voice and have it come through what we're trying to do here to try to set the bar as high as we can for our Arizona Cardinals. Because if we don't put that kind of pressure on, we're going to continue to get what we've gotten. Highly inconsistent and sometimes unacceptable effort, and seasons that fizzle out and rarely get to the playoffs. So let's do it together. And thank you all for joining me in this ride, from Kyle in this ride. So great to be back with him. And looking forward to next week when we see what happens up in Denver against the surging, bucking Broncos. So stay tuned. There'll be more. I'll post a 53-man of this week on the blog of what I would consider, probably if the cuts were today. But I'm going to do it each week. You do it too. Tell me where you make changes. Post your own too on the blogs there. I love it when fans do that. So thank you for your investment. Great to be back, Kyle. Love you. So proud of you, and can't wait till next week.
I'm so proud. Hold on, Walter. I'm so proud of you for making the leap and becoming your own boss, and I'm very happy to support you how I can along the journey as well. So I'm grateful to be back and looking forward to season number 5 of the Red Rain podcast.
And what are we, 179?
Today is 179. So
All right.
we're creeping up on 200.
Marching towards 200. So thank you, pal. And may the red rain of Super Bowl confetti shower down on us one day into the red sea. Red rain.